What's up, creeps? I'm Exorcist, and thanks for tuning in to the Scurred channel. This time around, we're going to take a look at a brand new movie came out on Paramount Plus. Actually, something that I've been pretty into. Paramount Plus has a lot of good offerings, especially in our favorite horror realm. But I was just flicking through, looking, seeing what I could watch, and all of a sudden I see Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin. Now, I don't know what your experience is with the Paranormal Activity movies, but a lot of them I really, really liked. I think the first Paranormal Activity, maybe even the second Paranormal Activity, were a couple of the scarier movies ever made. The first one in particular, I mean, it was just a different kind of genre. It had like a Blair Witch feel, but it was local in the house. There was a lot of unanswered questions. And quite honestly, anything that drags you out of your bed and like pulls you down the hallway is just freaky as heck. So it had a lot going for it. As the series goes on, we get off into some pretty deep weeds. And I think by the fourth or fifth one, I was like, stop with the franchise, just quit. And then nothing. And all of a sudden, boop, Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin. So I am curious by nature. That's just the monster that I am. I check out the trailer and I'm like, okay, well, I can see where there's some scariness to this, but it's different than the first couple Paranormal Activities. I mean, the first couple Paranormal Activities were very, it seemed like house-based. Obviously, we know the backstory, and it was not the house, it was the girl, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of family history there. But you got familiar to seeing, like, it had a familiar feel to it. Like, you knew that things in the house were going to move. You knew that there was going to be creepy stuff, that you see on the camera that the cast doesn't see. It's part of the fun of Paranormal Activity. I mean, just the idea in the name itself, Paranormal Activity, tells us we're going to see things, in an active capacity that are paranormal. Wow, Exorcist, what an explanation that was. But no, seriously, when you just look at the very premise of these films, the whole idea is that there's going to be a lot going on. It's all going to be pretty scary stuff, and we're going to go, like every 5 minutes. Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin has nothing to do with any of that. Like, for real. I'm actually still struggling kind of to figure out what the hell I just watched. Don't get me wrong. There were some scares in this, and we'll get into the meat of the subject in a little bit here. There were some scares in this that were downright, holy crap. I'm not jumpy. It's very, very, very rare that I jump. And there were probably at least 2 scares in the show where I was like, at least a heavy breath in and eyes wide open. Didn't fall out of my chair or anything like that. Didn't have a heart attack. I'm okay. Everything's fine. But, overall, the story, by the end, I'm going, what? Do I need to watch it again? Like, did I miss something? And I think you can do that. Like in the first couple Paranormal Activity movies, you can miss things. You can not see that. You can not put together the puzzle pieces. This is like having a 500-piece puzzle, but every single one of them is a different freaking piece to a different freaking puzzle. I have no idea what the hell's going on. And to be honest, I don't think the directors, the writers, the actors, anybody knew actually what the heck was going on. It was very confusing. That doesn't mean I didn't watch the whole thing, because of course I did. But, it doesn't have good ratings. On IMDb, they had 5.2 out of 10. And, I'm not going to get right down into the ratings of it yet. But what I can tell you is mine will be that or lower. Okay? And it's not based on scary, because there were scary parts, no doubt about it. Overall, the cast was likable. There was one guy in particular that I thought was absolutely hilarious. He provided 99.9% of the comic relief in the movie. And I think any horror movie that can add in an element of subtle but funny, it gives an extra point or two. That's just the way it works. Your main character left something to be desired. I mean, she didn't have a bunch of qualities that stood out. Margot was her name, which is a pretty old school name. And the whole thing is just kind of a weird story. But what I want to come down to first is the way that we run things here on Scurred. We do have a system. We go bullet point by bullet point down the whole thing. So let's do it. Title: Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin. You can see this on Paramount Plus. We subscribe through Amazon. I'll drop a link for Paramount Plus if you haven't picked it up. Might be worth watching. There's some cool stuff on there. Pretty limited selection, but it's growing all the time. What type of movie is this? Obviously, with Paranormal Activity in the title, you'd go, well, this is obviously paranormal. To be honest with you, I don't know if I would constitute it as paranormal. Now, the first few movies in the series, yeah, I would say they're paranormal. Is this one paranormal? By definition, yes. But is it what we come to expect from a paranormal movie? Not really. If anything, and this is going to confuse you if you haven't seen it, I would consider this more of a, it's going to be hard, but I'm going to say it. I would call this more of a monster movie. And now you're going, wait, did he say monster movie? Yeah, I think it's more of a monster movie. And for good reason. If you jump down into this thing, you'll find out more about it. But I want to give you some overall plot, okay? And I'm going to take a little drink because I'm thirsty. But overall plot of Paranormal Activity Next of Kin is Margot, who's a nice young lady, finds out she was abandoned by her mother when she was very, very young, like a baby. And then she comes to find out via basically a brother that comes out of nowhere and is like, hey, I'm your brother. By the way, I'm Amish. And so here's the thing, is I watched some Amish shows, and this is where the movie actually did really good. And I still haven't taken a drink, but I'm going to do that because I'm thirsty. Much better. So the movie actually did really good with the whole Amish lifestyle. I was really impressed. They use terms like English. So if you're outside of the community, the Amish community, basically everybody in plain clothes, all the other people are known as English or Englishmen, Englishwoman. So they had a lot of the terminology right. You know, at some point they talked about being shunned, which is a huge deal in the Amish community. You don't want to be shunned. You're not like kicked out, but they won't eat dinner with you. They put you in the corner, and you are the very definition of the word shunned. So they did a lot of things really good in the Amish community. Anyway, back to the plot. So Margot finds this little secluded Amish community, goes down to the farm, jumps in there, starts talking with people, and she's just trying to get an idea of who the heck she is and where on earth she came from. She wants to learn more about her mother and what happened, and kind of does that. So here's how we catch the whole thing on camera, because, you know, this is like a movie camera, cell phone video kind of film, like the rest of the Paranormal Activities. She brings a crew because she wants to document and make a documentary about her life and what she missed out on as far as being Amish. Find her backstory and document the whole thing. Okay, so that's okay. I mean, if I just found out like last week I had, been abandoned by my mother and, blah, 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 and I was supposed to be Amish. I don't know if I want the whole thing on film, is my point. But anyway, she goes out, she does it. She brings two guys with her, good friends. They're documenting everything. They're checking it out. They're doing interviews with the Amish people. The ones that will do interviews, a lot of them are pretty closed off. They don't like the electricity. They don't like all the modern tech stuff. But what she finds out is allegedly her mother went out of the little colony there, the Amish community, and did it with an Englishman. And so this was very, very, very frowned upon. And because of it, she was shunned. The whole point and premise was, okay, well, now you have to give away the baby because, listen, she doesn't fit in with our customs, with our traditions, and that's what you're going to have to do. So, there's this problem and that problem and blah, 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 and she disappears. She takes off. Nobody knows where she is, leaves the baby, and she's just gone. So when Margot goes back to the community, there's still a little bit of a hole where her mother left. There's her old bedroom that's upstairs in this creepy old house, which is actually a beautiful house. Love farmhouses for the most part. But, there's a lot of things missing still in her world. So as we start to develop more of the story, we start to see some kind of weird stuff happening in the community. Granted, none of this is really paranormal. There might be one scene where they're in the mom's room, and there's a force on the bed that pushes it down like someone's sitting on it. That happens, but she gets out from under the bed and there's nothing there. That's about as paranormal as it gets. So the generator goes off. They find a little boy sleepwalking outside, and he's going to freeze to death. So thank God you came outside. That actually had nothing to do with anything. And this is where the trend starts to replay itself. Like something in the movie happens, and it has nothing to do with anything. So they find the little boy wandering outside, and it's like setting you up, like, oh, he's a sleepwalker. Oh, okay, so maybe there's something scary and dark going on, and they all sleepwalk at night. Nope, nothing happened. It's just like thing after thing after thing. So they walk through the woods. This is Margot and her videographer and, her buddy, essentially, the three of them walk through the woods. They're about a mile out, which, by the way, they talk about how far this thing that they find is away from where they're staying at the farmhouse. And you're going to be impressed, because by the end of the movie, what was a mile away now takes about 35 seconds to run. So either these are the fastest people on Earth, and that's paranormal, or they have no, sense of time and distance. Anyway, what they explain to be like, man, we walked for like a mile. Here's this church way out in the middle of nowhere. And there's actually on the movie cover, and I'll put it up. On the movie cover, you see this little skull thing. But if you look closely down inside the skull, you see a church in this whole clearing. They go up to it. There's, a locked door, a little bit of slapstick comedy about, racial profiling and being able to pick locks. And then when they're just about to open the big wood beam to get the door open, here comes Father Bob or whatever his name is. And he's like, no, don't go in the church. Okay, so there's a red flag. Anytime you find a church out in the middle of nowhere, miles from anywhere, there's locks and big heavy pieces of wood that hold the door closed, and they don't want you to go inside the church, it's probably hiding something. So Margot can't let this go. She goes back and back and back and back, and she's like, I got to figure out everything that's going on inside this church. I need to know what's happening. Obviously, there's some dirty, dark secret, okay, which no longer has anything to do with her mother, has nothing to do with her origin story. She just wants to see what the heck's going on with the church. So they break into the church. Whole different time. That's fine. They get in there. The church is completely empty. There's nothing in there but this vestibule in the middle of it. And, everybody and their mother's uncle's cousin's brother knows that if you look near the vestibule, this thing in the middle of the empty church, you're going to find a trap door. I mean, it's ridiculously obvious. Everybody knows there's going to be some kind of door under it or behind it. And so, yeah, they see it and they're like, oh, let's push it back. They push it back. They open the big, scary door. And lo and behold, there's a hole that goes straight into the ground. And you can't see the bottom of it. You don't know how far down it goes. You have no idea. But you look over in the church next to the wall, and what you see is this full body harness, this rope and pulley. So they're obviously spelunking in this hole or lowering down something, which makes you go, okay, well, what's the purpose of having to go into the hole? Why do they need to put things in the hole? Why do they need to go in the hole? There's got to be a reason to the hole. And there is, and this is where we get a little bit spoily, but not too much. I don't want to spoil it all the way. There is indeed something in the hole. It does indeed have a lot to do with Margot. It is not what you'll expect, and you will be disappointed. Fair enough? Fair enough. Nothing paranormal about it. It's a monster, okay? For all intents and purposes, it's a monster. Anyway, if the monster gets out of the whole village is going to be gone. blah, 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 blah. So backstepping just a little bit because I have to. Margot gets more curious when she's in the farmhouse, and this is Amish people. They don't use technology, blah, blah, blah. She goes into the main guy's bedroom, goes into his closet, and he's got like a laptop and, cameras, all kinds of technology. And it looks like they've been following her for at least some time. And then that pretty much turns into nothing. Okay, so the Amish people have technology. Completely irrelevant. I mean, okay, so they found her, and yeah, she has a special part to do with the hole, and they got to put her in it, blah, blah, blah. And this movie jumps you all over the place, and most of the rabbit holes you go down make no sense whatsoever. They're just a complete waste of time. And this whole movie probably could have been summed up in about 5 minutes. So, you get like a C- for effort. That's how I feel about it. Best scares, yeah, like I said, there's a couple. Anytime it's dark and scary, there's one in particular, and you'll probably see it in some of the trailers if you watch it, but she's like looking at the window, and she's breathing on the window, and all of a sudden, bam, there's a face, and you're like, ooh. So there's some real short, brief, but good, well-timed jump scares in it. The overall plot of the movie, was it scary? Are you going to lose sleep over it? You're just not. They call it a horror mystery thriller, and by the end of it, it's slaughter. I mean, it's a slasher flick by the back end of this thing. So just be ready for the carnival ride. I mean, it's a roller coaster, up, down, and it does this for a minute. You're on the roller coaster and you feel the anticipation, and you're like, oh, any second now I know I'm going to level out, and I'm just going to go really fast. But you get there, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're just going to keep going straight. Maybe we'll come up a little bit. Oh, we'll do a little dip. And then it's a real disappointing ride down all the way through the back end. Ending approval. The ending was so dumb. It was just so dumb. I don't approve. That's how dumb it was. Will it lead into a sequel? God, I hope not. Just stop. You should have stopped after Paranormal Activity 2. I don't even know why. I mean, maybe just for the sake of the name or like branding, they thought that they could get a few more watchers, which they got me, sucker, off of calling it Paranormal Activity, but it had nothing to do with Paranormal Activity. Nothing whatsoever. No former characters, no blah, blah, blah. Again, unless I missed something huge, but I don't think I did. I think overall this was just a play on the name, Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin, and who cares? We're going to call it Paranormal Activity film. More people will watch it, and it'll still get a crappy rating by IMDb and Scurred. Not that we count, but one day we might. And if we did, you wouldn't watch this movie. So, ending approval. I don't approve. I think it was dumb. I don't. Just don't. Overall, let's go. Overall to the Scurred scale. From 1 being this was, My Little Pony is scarier than this movie, 10 being the holy crap. I just peed a little. This was like a 2.5, maybe a 3. There were a couple parts that, like I said, those little jump scares that saved it from being a total poop. But it's pretty low. It's pretty low for the overall Scurred factor. And if I had to give it a total rating, like I said, 5.2 on IMDb was really, really, really generous. On the Scurred scale, I'm going to give this thing a 2, and that's even being generous. I hope that the crew, writers, productions, everybody, Christopher Landon, one of the writers on this, by the way, and Oren Pele, which was one of the big hand starters of the Paranormal Activity franchise. You guys should send me some Christmas stuff because I gave you a 2, or send me a nice thank you card for giving you such a positive review out of what could have been. Not good. Overall, would I recommend the movie? I mean, if you want a couple cheap jump scares and you want to waste, how long is this movie? Jeez, I don't even know how long it is. We'll call it an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half of your life. Sure, you can watch it. 1 hour, 38 minutes. It drags you along just long enough that it might keep your attention, but man, somewhere in the middle, you're going to go, what am I watching? What's happening? What is the point? Why do I care? I don't. There's even a little old grandma in it that I'm like, oh, she's going to be so scary when she goes all paranormal on me, and it never happens. They just show her peeking out the window like, who gives a crap? So overall, no, you guys, this is a big fat 2. Has nothing to do with the old Paranormal Activity franchise, and it's just overall a 2. Let's put it that way. So I would think twice about watching it. You can click on the link down there to check out Paramount Plus. See if you like anything on Paramount Plus. There's a couple good flicks on there right now, maybe 1 or 2 that we'll review in upcoming series. What I could use is you for, like, subscribe, comment down below, help us grow the channel, help us watch more movies, help us do more reviews, and let's grow Scurred together. So always my plug in there. I'm without my partner Boo this time around, and probably a couple more videos to boot. But we'll be sure she's back. We'll do some more Scurred reviews. We'll have some more fun as a family here in the Scurred crew. So as we always say, I'm Exorcist, and this is the Scurred channel. Until next time, sleep tight.